We set out about 8 years ago to develop the next generation of the internet, which is the 3D web. The virtual world web is a large set of, about 80,000 commercial virtual worlds and about 1 million individual personal virtual worlds that are all interconnected just in a very familiar way, in a way like the World Wide Web is set up. You can't pull back technology. We can't stop the march forward of these types of things. So the question is, if people are going to be spending that time in front of the computer anyway, is it better that they're doing it in a platform that's designed really to be as close to and really at the end of the day be as fulfilling as a real world experience, going out and interacting with people in the real world? Many users find that the virtual world and interacting in the virtual world empowers them and is very enabling in their lives, and they take a lot of what they learn into the real world. It's much easier for somebody to have their avatar approach another avatar to try to establish a friendship or potentially a relationship in a virtual world. And the rejection that they get, well, they're less likely to be rejected, number one, and number two, the rejection they get is less sort of stinging. And so there are actually many people who essentially will practice their communication skills. They'll practice their approach, their learning how to talk. And people are very good in the virtual world of saying, you shouldn't say that. You should have said this. And then with success in the virtual world, they are able to bring that to the real world and interact better with people in the real world.
Play it before you live it.
In a lot of ways, or practice makes perfect.
The reason we talk about environment is obviously because time spent in the virtual environment is time that isn't spent in the real world, and so we start questioning our idea of what our space is, what our environment is. Where do we live? If you spend 8 hours online a day, what is the predominant place that you're living in?
The world doesn't have the capacity to support 8 billion humans. It certainly doesn't have the capacity to 12 and 15 billion humans in a manner in which anybody could live comfortably the way that we're currently living comfortably. I mean, we're exhausting all of the world. But now, if you imagine that everybody is able to live and work in a virtual world, suddenly, that does sort of blur the line, and you say, well, what kind of wardrobe do I actually need? Well, if it is in a virtual world, I don't really need a work wardrobe in the real world. I can have pixels. I mean, my avatar is probably going to want to wear a different outfit every day, but it won't require manufacturing, it won't require shipping, it won't require energy capacity, and you can live in a much smaller place if you're 8 hours a day or 16 hours a day spending in a virtual environment, which is spectacular. Your commute is cut, and so all of these things actually add a real wealth effect, because your perception of your wealth is, I have an enormous closet, I have a virtual mansion, and that's literally where I spend most of my time. So how rich am I? Well, if maybe I don't have those things in the real world, but in the place where I inhabit most of my time I have them, well, at least that time I'm rich. The virtual world web now is at the very early stage. It's akin to the internet maybe in the early 90s. I'm going to say, within the next 5 years, the virtual world web will overtake the current flat web, and everybody will launch, when you want to connect to the internet, you will launch a 3D web browser. You'll be seeing things in 3D and immersed in the environment, and you'll be able to navigate through the Connect and through technologies like that without interacting necessarily with your computer. You project that out 20 years where you have, a few billion people that are on the virtual world web now for 15 years. They're going to be immersed in that world, and you're going to be able to essentially flip a switch, and the room in which you're experiencing the 3D web will, materialize into whatever environment it is that you want.
So what are the implications of this future on our environment, whether it's the sustainability of our lifestyle or whether it's overpopulation or our finite resources?
The potential implications are that First of all, it's very de-stressing for people. You don't have to fight traffic. You don't have to deal with travel. You know, if you want to go to a convention, you flip a switch, you're at the convention. You know, you can be dressed in your pajamas and everybody still sees you in your suit. You know, easy to do all of these things. So the, you know, cost structures go down. I mean, it no longer costs thousands of dollars to fly out to a trip to Las Vegas. You know, if it was done properly, it will be a beautiful change, and it will bring humans back to a place where we're more like our ancestors, in that we're tribal again. We're interacting with groups on a regular basis, but it's those groups like our extended families, which are all over the world now.